What's going on?
Doing good. Just keeping it real in Maryland. So,
Yeah, I guess. How is it up there? Where are you guys at and how are you liking it?
so we are when people think of Maryland, they think of like kind of DC, Annapolis area. We're
Yeah.
actually across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, on
Okay.
the eastern shore, which is actually closer to Delaware than it is
Oh,
to
yeah.
the mainland.
Yeah.
Um, so our area is like farming. So you get a lot of farms out there.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like fishing and boating is huge, and it's so different from the rest of Maryland that it's fun to kind of explain that difference.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny because the two people that I know that live in Maryland, one of them's in Baltimore, the other one is closer to DC. So
Mhm.
I hear more about like city life than I do about farming and fishing. So
Oh yeah,
that certainly is eye-opening.
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't think that this area really existed, which is funny. When we told people that we were moving to Maryland, they're like, "Maryland? Why are you going there?" I'm like,
Yeah.
for job." So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's been good. It's been
Yeah.
it's been 2 years for us here, so we've been enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of work are you doing? What kind of work is Ethan doing? Like where are you guys at with that kind of stuff?
So I work for a company called VIP Kid. It's
Oh,
actually pretty popular. Yeah.
I know. Chelsea actually
Mhm.
worked for them for a little while. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. Mhm.
do you
Yeah, sorry.
have a like how many kids are you teaching? Like what's your schedule? Is it like crazy hours?
It um well, now that daylight savings is coming in the next month, it'll be a little, well, not crazy. Being on the East Coast, it's a lot easier than like West Coast.
Okay.
So my morning usually starts at like 5:30. My
Okay.
first class is at 6, and then I teach till 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So yeah,
Man,
and
that would be different here. Dang, that's
mhm,
crazy.
yeah, and then when daylight savings, or however, whichever it's called, when that starts, my first class will be at 5 instead of
Okay.
6. So it's like everybody else gets an hour, but like I don't. So I'm not all that excited.
Yeah. Oh, that stings a little bit. Yeah. Well,
So
do you like your kids?
they're good. Honestly, like the number of I guess my regular students fluctuates because I
Yeah.
mean they book me. It's not like I book them or anything. But
Right.
the kids, they're really good.
Yeah.
Most of them. I mean that's what every teaching gig is like that,
Yeah.
honestly, where you're gonna
Yeah.
get awesome superstar students, and then you'll get superstar students when they want to be at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So
Oh, yeah. Who can blame them?
yeah.
So what age group are you teaching?
My age group, I teach like 8-year-olds to oldest I've done is like 15. So like
Okay.
I
Dang.
love I love working with the older kids. Like they are so much
Really?
fun, and they are hilarious. Like
Okay.
I I forget, it's kind of crazy. This is all the students are Chinese and they live in mainland China.
Right.
And you would think it would be hard to like talk to them about just anything outside of like what we're talking about in class.
Right.
But like I play games with Ethan, like computer games, and we've been kind of playing Minecraft every once in a while just for fun. And I've had a couple of students that'll ask him like, "Do you play Minecraft?" And I'll show them pictures, and they're like, "Teacher, Minecraft!" And they get so excited. So we're talking about Minecraft at like 6 a.m. and having a
Yeah.
ball. So they're normal kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Mhm.
cool. That's so cool. Chelsea was telling me how there, because there's so many different kids and different personality types amongst the kids, you end up
Mhm.
with like one of her favorites was a girl that just had the hardest time focusing, and she would just like start coloring or something like right in front, and then her parents would have to come in and like, take stuff and be like, oh, focus, or whatever. But it's just so funny whenever I hear stories like that. I'm like, oh, they're so cute. They're just actually kids.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they might live in China or wherever, but they
Yeah,
they laugh at the same things that we do, and they
yeah,
talk about the same things we do, so it's really cool. Really cool.
yeah. How neat. Um, I, yeah, I love everything that I've heard about VAP Kid. It sounds like a pretty good program. So,
Mhm.
how long have you been with them?
It'll be, oh my gosh, how long? 3 years?
Yeah,
In 3 years in, like, April next year. So, yeah,
yeah,
2.5 years about.
crazy.
Which is
Do you,
nuts
do
for
you,
me.
yeah. Do you like working remotely, being able to just hop on and, have at least there's the flexibility of location. You can be anywhere, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, that has been an enormous blessing for us, like, Ethan and I, since when we first moved to Maryland. That's when I first got the job, was when we first moved to Maryland, and I was nervous at first since it was nothing compared to what I had done before. Like, I'd been working
Right,
retail forever, and now I'm
right.
waking up and teaching English to kids all the way around the world.
Yeah,
But it's been it's been amazing, just the flexibility of it all, and I've
right.
been with it for this long that my schedule is pretty steady, or
Yeah,
it's steady pretty much every week, so there's not a lot of fear of, like, losing income or teaching opportunities,
yeah,
things like that. And now
yeah,
Ethan's work is remote now too, since the pandemic and such.
right.
So
Yeah.
both of us are at home working together, which has been really great. So overall,
That's cool.
mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's Ethan doing for work?
Yeah, so Ethan works for a company. Say, ooh, I think we got somebody driving in. Sorry, I'm like
Oh,
at a
you're
dock
good.
area, so I
Oh,
saw some
yeah.
headlights. I'm like, where are you coming from? Anyway,
Yeah.
Ethan works for a company here that he's a data analyst
Okay.
for this company that they do reports and analytics for like government and local law enforcement, things like that
Oh, wow.
when it comes to like medical, Medicare, Medicaid fraud.
Yeah. Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
yes. So his team that he's on, he gets requests from like CMS and sometimes police departments saying like, "Hey, we think this doctor over here is doing something sketchy, or we think this pharmacy or group of pharmacies are doing something sketchy. Can you check up on that?" And so he'll
Yeah.
pull all of that information from however long ago they want, and
Yeah.
he'll run whatever tests they want to look at and then just give that information to the investigators. So yeah.
Dang. So he's out busting bad guys. That's cool.
Yeah, it's nuts. I don't hear about a lot of the what's going on like right at the moment since it's all sensitive information, so that makes sense.
Right.
But after the fact, when like everybody's been either cleared of sketch or sent to jail, he'll tell me about it, and those stories are nuts and
Oh, man.
pretty sometimes alarming, like
Oh,
what people are
really?
getting away with. Yeah,
Is it like mostly embezzling, or is it something different?
it it's like a lot of different things, but I think most of it is like some how do I describe it? There's so many words and acronyms that I've learned from him. Uh, he the biggest one that I can think of that happens the most is like when a doctor will say to a patient, "Go to this pharmacy to get this kind of drug that I'm
Oh,
prescribing for
yeah.
you," which is
Yeah.
not cool. Like patients should be able to go, or I mean, not even should, like they are supposed to go to whatever pharmacy they
Yeah.
want to get their drug.
Right.
But it's weird if a pharmacy or if a prescriber, not a prescriber, but a patient goes like 3 hours away to this remote
Huh.
pharmacy to go get this drug, and it's like, why did you drive that far to get this drug when there's
Right.
one right down the street?
Yeah,
So
that's weird.
that's what, yeah, that's like kind of bare minimum from what I've understood of the sketchy
Yeah.
things that can happen. But he told me of this one case that he like helped out with at the beginning. He wasn't too deep in it, but it was like fraud that was happening all over the country,
Uh,
where the just all of these doctors and pharmacies, just a whole slew of people were committing this fraud and costing the government like, what did they say? It was like $2.1 billion, something like that. It,
yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's
That's
I mean,
real.
you kind of assume that, yeah, you kind
Some
of
stuff
assume that
is
all of
up.
these
Yeah.
like bad things happen. Yeah, but then when you hear about it, it's like, wow, okay,
Or
that
and
is
have
not
any
cool.
kind of
And
connection to it, like Ethan was looking
yeah,
at the data for these people. That makes it so much more
yeah,
real when you're instead of this ethereal thing like, yeah, that happens there. It's like, no, that
oh,
happened like here. This is
yeah, that was
happening.
like here. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It is. It's a crazy world, but yeah. But he's been enjoying the work. It keeps him busy. He's
Yeah.
doing what he likes, the
Yeah.
statistics. So yeah, it's good.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
So do you guys think you'll be in Maryland for a long time, or like just riding this out, see how far it goes?
Yeah, probably right in and out. We
Yeah.
because my work is so like I can work remotely wherever I want, pretty much. At least for
Yeah.
however long I work for VIP Kid. Ethan's job can be like that too.
Yeah.
He just needs to get permission to do it. So
Okay.
if he gets to go ahead to work remotely all day long, every week kind of deal, we can
Yeah.
move wherever we want to.
Right. So
So yeah.
yeah, yeah, so like would you want to move closer to family, back to Florida? Like what have you guys thought about that at all? Like
Yeah, we
anywhere
definitely
you'd want to
thought.
live?
Yeah, so we're not sure if we want to go back to Florida. I could see us moving closer for sure, maybe like the Carolinas, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, we Depending on where we go next will probably depend on like schooling for either both of us, since Ethan
Oh
would like to
yeah.
go and get a master's, like
Yeah.
a biostats major.
Okay.
So if that works out, which would be awesome, we could possibly land up in Virginia, just right next door at UVA.
Yeah. Okay.
There's NC State in North Carolina is good, and then Texas A&M.
Oh,
So
random. All right.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's good. That's a good spread. What
yeah.
about you? Are you trying to go back to school for anything?
I would like to go get certificates or like volunteer training actually in animal assisted therapy. I don't know if you've
Oh,
heard of
that's
that.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my sister, I mean, I know there's different types, but my
Hmm.
sister does equine therapy.
Oh, that's cool. So
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My if my dream like kind of job actually would be to help train dogs for PTSD, like
Oh,
veterans.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen that work play out, and it's just so fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
So that if I could do anything like that, like train dogs or even, I don't know, just be a puppy handler. I love dogs. So this would also be a dream job for me. But yeah, that would be amazing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how needed that is. I know that from at least my experience with PTSD, like I don't have it myself, but from what I know about it, like to have something like an animal that is so grounding and can kind of help bring you back to a place of stability as much as possible whenever you have something triggering occur. Like that kind of stuff really does make a difference in somebody's overall quality of life, especially if they have triggers that are going off all the time.
But just with everything that's going on this last year, I feel for those that are struggling in any way, whether or not that is mentally, even physically, emotionally, or just anything. It's been a really rough last year for a lot of people. So if there's any way that, like, if an animal or a person or an activity that helps to ground someone and help. See, this is my phone telling me you're using so much data.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm super sorry.
No,
If you want, there's also the option to do the dial in, so you could just use like do a phone call instead, and we don't have to do video. It's your call, but if that's better for you, you could switch to that.
no, this should be good if it
Okay.
will decide to not cut out. But mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I just I feel, just thinking about the last couple of months, I feel really lucky and blessed that it's been a pretty, I don't want to say peaceful, but just a pretty, nothing really exciting or crazy has happened for Ethan and I the last couple of months. So
Yeah.
it feels like we're just like in our own kind of bubble at our house. Since our house is really remote anyway, and where we live, there aren't a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's not like we really have to. I mean, we're careful wherever we go out in public, um,
Right.
but it's not like we're in a super dense population city where, I mean, we're touching elbows and shoulders with everybody wherever we go. That's
Right.
not like where we are. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
feel blessed for our situation. So I wish that up for everybody if I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. It's kind of crazy how this social situation has just been turned, like the volume has been turned up to 11 on everything, it feels like. And so the intensity of it, the confusion, the worry, the stress, and how that, and the isolation, I think that's maybe the the worst piece of it all to me, is the isolation. That has just put emotional states in a downward spiral, and so kind of like you're saying, that's how Chelsea and I have experienced it a little bit. Like the main thing that was uh, an obstacle for us at the beginning was she lost her job because of COVID, but we were able to figure stuff out like not long after that. That's actually when she started doing VIB Kid, and
Okay.
we have yeah, a couple of other things kind of work out for us, um but it wasn't like we were destitute or anything like that for a long period of time. And there's a lot of people that are actually legitimately worried of like how are we going to make things work, or
Yeah.
people that have, especially in these cities, man, the cities are the ones that are taking the biggest brunt of it. And I
Yeah.
bet you being, you might not physically be in one of those cities, but you're still way closer to them than I am, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've heard some pretty wild things about how, that the disease has impacted the people in some of these cities more than I have. Um, but yeah, it does. Having something like this happen is so beneficial for perspective, and like really helping people open their eyes a little bit more. I don't know, when you have those blessings and you can say, oh snap, no, like look how good my life actually is. Like if and I think this one specific word comes to my mind more frequently in my life now than it ever has before, but it's contrast. And I believe so fully that God wants us to experience contrast so that we can know the depths of each side. You know,
Mhm.
whether we don't have to go and experience evil and darkness firsthand all the time. Like sometimes, I mean, we do because we're fallen creatures and we make terrible decisions often, you know,
Yeah.
and we should definitely know better, right? But but you know, there's also things that just happen to us, kind of like COVID hitting, or you know, some of the social unrest, like, and this kind of stuff is like it's very revealing in it, and it helps us to see how good true charity and love and compassion and hope and faith and all those things really are, and the impact of them when somebody has that in their life. So yeah, I don't necessarily wish, you know, hard things on people, but at the same time I kind of do. Like it's it's what those are the greatest growing points in my life have been, when that kind of stuff has happened and I look back and like, I know it sucked when I was going through it, but man, I'm so much I would say a better person for having gone through it, and made some decisions to change, not just go through it. You can't just go through something and be like, "Ah, I'm better." It's like, no, you gotta learn from it too, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. It's so yeah, what about the within the last 5 years, what have been some of the cool things, or the hard things, or the interesting things, like that you've had to navigate, like some of the things that you're like, man, that was quite a period, you know, to have to go through or whatever.
Ah, oh man. I mean, I've definitely had, I don't want to say like a lot of things happen over the last 5 years, but I mean, well, actually, I mean, 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago is when I got married, when Ethan and I
Yeah,
got married. So that's been a good ride and sometimes a hard ride, but I mean, things fluctuate.
yeah,
And I think we all need to be forgiving of those fluctuations because, like you said, we're all human and we make good decisions and we make not good decisions. So,
yeah,
yeah. So I think I think the biggest learning experience for me was actually last summer. I won't go into detail with what exactly happened, but so you know how people like they talk about anxiety and sometimes it feels like they don't really understand what anxiety really feels like. It's not
yeah,
like just like that nervousness, or maybe like your heart rate goes up a little bit, or you just start to kind of get a little fidgety. Like
yeah,
um not to put down like those kinds of experiences because those can be off-putting as well.
right,
But last year, I had some things happen that I, oh man, I started having anxiety attacks, and
yeah,
I had two panic attacks at one
oh
point.
gosh,
Like not like very far, not super close together, but within like a couple of weeks of each other, and I never experienced that before.
yeah,
And just and it's been a year since that happened, and I haven't had any sort of experience since that. The anxiety is still there every once in a while, but not to the extent of what it was at the beginning.
yeah,
And the biggest thing that I've learned from those experiences has been, wow, I really truly empathize with, at least I feel like I can truly empathize now with those that experience that way more often than I do, or even just experience it once, because that's not
yeah,
something that anyone would want to. That's not something that anyone would want to experience or would want to wish on anyone, but
right,
it happens. And I think this year in particular, I think a lot more people are experiencing that, like the anxiety, just either general anxiety or heightened anxiety, or even panic.
right,
And especially being isolated, like if you're living by yourself, that would be, oh man, like how alone. Like if that had been me, like if I weren't married and lived by myself and that I was going through that, I just, I don't even know how to describe it. It would be such a low point for me that
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to wish that on anyone. So, but just talking about the fluctuations and kind of the ebbs and flows of life, and you're
Yeah.
talking about learning from those experiences, I have for sure learned a lot about myself and what I'm capable of handling. Like last year was awful, or not awful, but those couple of weeks and like sometimes months were awful, and
Yeah.
I just felt like I couldn't get out of this rut or this hole really, and then just little things here and there started stacking up. Like I met a new person that had experienced it or had knew what I was talking about and could empathize with me or even just listen to my experience. Or I don't know, I worked with awesome kids one week, and I mean, waking up really early in the morning is not fun sometimes. But if I'm working with a great kid and they're a light to me some mornings
Yeah.
when I'm not in the mood to talk or do anything like that. So
Wow.
it's it's been a really enlightening experience, I will say. And
Yeah.
I'm it's hard to say that I am entirely grateful for the experience, but looking
Yeah.
back on it, I'm grateful for I think I'm grateful for what I have learned,
Yeah.
despite the uncomfortable situations I was in. So,
You know, as you're saying that, like you think about that friend that was able to empathize a little more fully with you, you were talking about. It's like
mhm.
you now have a greater capacity for that yourself. I mean, I can hear it in your voice, and even what you were saying about you know, but the kind of your dream job of working with dogs and puppies, and but not just, you know, for your own pleasure, but like to really to benefit somebody else's life. I mean, I'm guessing that part of that also stems from, you know, your experience and knowing how much, even more fully, how much good that could do for somebody because you felt that, right?
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, you don't wish that on somebody, but you do want somebody to experience the growth that comes with it, you know?
Yeah. I think I want I would love for all of us to take away at least one thing, one little thing from like our painful experiences. Um, but yeah, I think overall, I mean, there was something that I read actually last year or maybe earlier this year that really stood out to me when it comes to those moments where we're having a really hard time and we're just like, ah, I wish that it was like 2 months from now. Like whatever's going on right now, I won't have to deal with it in 2 months. I just wish I could fast forward and be there. And it's interesting. I wish I had the exact wording of it, but it was something along the lines of where you are now is where you wish you were back then during that really hard time. And I
Crazy.
had one of those moments where I realized, like a year ago, just looking at it today, like, wow, last year I totally felt that. It's like, oh, I wish that I could just fast forward out of this situation and just look at it from the future and just be like, you know what, that was not fun, but great, I'm not dealing with it anymore. But
Yeah.
anyway, but we can't do that. We can't fast forward through it, unfortunately. But it was eye opening to me to think about like time. This feels kind of cliche to say it, but it's like time heals all, kind of. But I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean,
Yeah.
time brings knowledge and experience and perspective, and our perspective can change for sure over a week or a month or a year. Like
Yeah.
my perspective has truly changed when it comes to mental health in general. And I think one thing that I am the most grateful for in my, I guess, mental health journey
Yeah.
um, is we as humans are fallible and we can make mistakes, but we and we bash each other, we bash ourselves for making those mistakes. But just like Christ and Heavenly Father lend us grace or give us grace for when we make mistakes, we should also be doing that for ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
we can't expect perfection from us, like, really ever. I mean, that's why we're working to be better people every day, whether or not that's just an inch worth of difference or a minute's worth of positivity. That's still progress. And then even if it feels like we're regressing just a little bit, that's life, and things fluctuate. And I think that's where grace really does play a bigger role, is when we feel like we're regressing a little bit. It's like, okay, I'm recognizing that this is going on. Let me try a little bit. Let me try some more today, or I'll try harder tomorrow, or however you want to think about it. So,
Yeah. Wow,
mhm.
that is so true, and that's beautifully spoken, Catherine. Like, I've I've noticed that in my own life where, especially you're saying that when regression takes place, that's maybe when we need it or see it the most. That is totally true. Like, I'm thinking about points where I'm like, why have I not overcome this one thing? Like, I've been dealing with this for like years, and I've been making the
Yeah.
same decision. Like,
Mhm.
how come I can't just beat this thing? Um, and that same kind of perspective applies to so many habits and so many behaviors that I have, like, even some that I'm still combating now, and trying to figure out, like, I
Yeah.
just want to be a more patient father. Like, why do I get so annoyed when this thing happens, or whatever. But that's something that I have been trying to find more of the balance with. So I think one thing, especially for Christian people or LDS people, is that we are willing to give other people grace like that sometimes, but you're saying not for ourselves. And maybe the fear is because we don't want to not be accountable, right? Like, we don't want to just be like, yeah, I'm just breaking commandments and I don't give a shit. God doesn't care. Like, we pay so much attention to the rules and the laws and commandments, and in the justice of it all, but we
Mhm.
don't really do the mercy side for ourselves. At least for me, this is
Yeah.
coming from at least my family. I think this is how we operate. So I'm like, you, and you, like, we're all acting the same way about
Mhm.
grace, and it's out of fear that we're being too lenient, like we're
Yeah.
giving ourselves too much. And but the reality is, like, we're not even coming close, like, to that line. And so that's something I've been working on with myself, and saying, like, you screwed up, but you're human, you're a work in progress, and you were designed to be imperfect. Like, right now, I am God was like, yep, imperfect, send him, like, he knew I was going to slip and fall. Like, daily he knew I was going to have that happen. And the coolest part is, like, he has a plan for that. Like, he came up with the perfect plan to oppose my imperfections, and to create that balance that is so essential, you know,
Mhm.
so that I could even still have peace when I make wrong decisions and look back and with regret. And he's like, I got you. Let's reset, clean the slate, and let's go. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm grateful that for eye-opening experiences that help me to realize, like, God doesn't want us to just punish ourselves all the time. Like, matter of fact, like, what the consequences are going to be there, with or without us choosing to punish our own selves. Like, why not
Yeah.
just take whatever he hands us and be like, all right, let's roll with it and get out of this thing as quickly as we can. But yeah, it's weird what we'll do to ourselves.
Seriously, and especially I feel that like that self-punishment. Since I feel like I think that's where we need to give ourselves the most grace is when when you're lying down at night and you're trying to go to sleep and then you remember that either really embarrassing or like dumb thing you did when you were like in 8th grade.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I thinking about this right now? And why am I punishing myself for something that I did back then? Especially if it's been like if it was whatever happened. If you needed to talk to someone about it or I don't
Yeah.
know, repent for it or something like that. If that's I'm so guilty of that. Like I've had memories of something I did in kindergarten. Like I'm almost 30 years old and I'm
Yeah.
still like cringing about something I did in kindergarten. But I've realized now so much, especially now, that I can sit in that uncomfortable space of remembering like, oh yeah, I did that. Okay. But then after sitting with it for a little bit, I can think, you know, that happened. I can't control what happened back then. I can control what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And that's the most important. And I can't control what happens in the future because so many different variables can change things. Even like as hard as we work to try and get like our perfect future, what we really, really want, there's somebody or something can throw a wrench into that and it's like, well, what the heck's going on? Like this was supposed to be my future. And
Yeah.
like one of the other bigger things that I've kind of kept as like my mantra for 2020 is present over perfect. So staying present and staying yeah, just staying in the moment and not focusing on what's going to happen like tomorrow or like next week or a year from now or what happened last week or a month ago or a year ago, since that's out of my control now. But
Right.
I can focus on what I'm doing right now and plan on being a better person right now. So that has been my 2020 and probably lifetime mantra.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. I like that phrase a lot. Um,
yeah.
well, so I know that did I send you the interview questions? I don't remember.
I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, then yeah, we'll go with no. I don't I sometimes people want to have like very formal questions. Sometimes they're just like, let's roll. So you seem like a pretty chill person, Catherine. So that's so I have like set interview questions that I'll throw out there, but
Mhm.
I I don't I'll I'm gonna put a couple of these to you just to see what your response is. But we've talked about so many of the things that I'm typically like curious about, and it's been very natural in the evolution of the conversation. So that's been awesome, and I appreciate that. Um, so I'm curious like about what are some of your what is your view on being wholehearted, and how how do you choose to be wholehearted in your own life?
Hmm. That's an interesting one. Okay. You know, I think when I think of wholehearted, I think of the word intention. And again, there's like the adage or what people say is that, oh, what is the phrase? Like the road to evil is paved with good intentions or whatever exactly like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But you know, if that is true, then okay. But there's also, I think being wholehearted, there's a lot of intention that's included in that. And I think, how do I describe this? I have this thought. Like, I'm trying to think of an example for myself where, well, okay, let me think about it this way, actually. Just going back to my own journey with like mental health or my own journey with like being married to Ethan and our experience. So I made the choice and decision to be wholeheartedly involved in my mental health journey as well as Ethan's, like our marriage. And that's a decision that I make every single day. And I continue to make that decision, even on those rough days or on those awesome days. So it's way easier to make that decision when you're like, yes, we are so in sync and it's great. But on those rough days where it's like, who did I marry?
Yeah.
that's a intentional decision to stay there and to, in the uncomfortable situation, whether or not that's like a fight, uncomfortable discussion. Um, but intention, I think, plays a really big part of it. And I think just going back to grace, actually think about that, since I think we beat ourselves up when we have like good intentions, but like it doesn't work out or bad things happen. Um, but I think mostly when things don't work out, you're just like, well, okay, that's great. Like I didn't get what I want. Um, and I feel like that happens a lot with marriage, where you have these like unset expectations of like how things are going to go, and when those things aren't met, it's like, oh, well, why can't you read my mind and know exactly what I want? But
Yeah.
I think when we experience this, and that's the same for any relationship,
Yeah.
like friendship or family, so that can be applied to anywhere. But I think to be wholeheartedly a part of something means being intentional with what you say, what you do, and keeping that intention positive or good. Um, I think that's how I feel when it comes to being wholehearted in my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that is cool. I like how you described that. So, um, I'm, not to throw Chelsea under the bus, but she's pregnant right now, and she's been
Hmm.
like super hormonal, and she will say this as well, that it's been all over the place emotionally for us lately. And just as she's in the last trimester. We'll probably have the baby within a few weeks. Like it's going to be pretty dang close. Um, so we're on on alert in a different way, where we're like, okay, what, like, how's your body feeling? Like, what just happened? Like, are you, was that a contraction, or are you like, do you have gas? I don't know. Like, it's
Yeah.
just hard to navigate, but yeah, it's been really good for me to learn more about how to communicate with her and to figure out like what her needs are. Um, and then to be able to take the step and say, all right, I'm gonna be a spouse that cares, and somebody who's committed, and somebody who's supportive and empathetic and willing to bite my tongue if I'm like disagreeing with how you handled something, or whatever it is. Like it's all about, like you're saying, that intention. And I actually have to choose that thought, like even to have that thought of like, am I about to be intentional right now?
Hmm.
I have to think about it and decide. It's not like I'm just so good at it at this point that and I don't always make the right choice. Sometimes I like will back talk or like say something that's like
Yeah.
totally foolish, um but that's the beauty of it, is we have a chance to get better and to try harder the next time.
Yeah.
um yeah, so I like how you put it with Ethan, that it is so definitively a choice of choosing to work in that relationship. And it is work. Like, I think it's work. It's not this passive thing that just rolls out on its own. Like, you have to choose these things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with any
Yeah.
given relationship, it's, I guess, just coming from the girl's perspective, I think the stereotype is we're all like when we're young, we're thinking about when we get married or have a husband or whoever, just being in any sort of relationship, and we're like, it's going to be a fairy tale, and it's going to be so great, and I'll be so happy all the time, and we'll hug and kiss and such and such. And
Yeah.
yes, those things do happen, or they probably will happen, but also some not great things will happen too, or some
Yeah.
really bad things might happen. And that's not a given, but it's something to be I don't want to say, I don't want to squash the whole like fairy tale like I feel like I am, but I think it's a matter of just realizing that, yeah, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, mom, dad, or whoever, they are imperfect people too, and they make mistakes. And
Yeah,
kind of checking in with ourselves when it comes to our like, what was I going to say, our unsaid expectations of like our family members and of our spouses and relationships. Just being intentional with that, like, okay, I've asked you a million times to go and do this, but I realize you're really busy or something happened. I'm going to choose and be intentional about not like freaking out at you right now.
yeah, right.
Um, and that's like, I feel like that's such a, I don't know, cliche kind of thing. Like, you didn't do the dishes. Like, how could you? Like,
Yeah,
after I've asked you like 10 times. But yeah, I think that's where the intention and being wholehearted and choosing to be sympathetic and give grace to ourselves and to anyone really
yeah,
that is feels like they're falling short of our expectations. So
yeah. You know, as you're talking, I was I got hung up on the word grace. When I think when we give grace to other people, it's like we're saying, I trust that you are doing your best. Like with it, and it's so complex. Like if you think about everything that goes into a decision or an omission, you know, if I just failed to do the dishes, I've done that plenty of times. And
hmm
like everything that led up to that, it wasn't like I was just blatantly like, I'm not doing dishes ever. I don't want to. You know, like I wasn't trying to rebel. In those moments, there were so many other factors that played into it, and that kind of grace for other people is the same kind of grace that God's giving to us, but like infinitely more. You know, where
yeah.
he understands perfectly those factors, and he says, I see you failing, and I know the reasons why. I believe in you. You can do better, but I also can forgive you. So
Yeah.
that's a good place to be. So who's somebody that represents being wholehearted to you, and how have they impacted your life?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Um, you know, I'm gonna say Ethan actually. We've again, I won't go into details or anything like that, but I have seen him and I go through some big things. Like things have fluctuated since we've been married, and good fluctuations, not so great fluctuations. It is what happened, and it is what it is. But I think with him, just seeing the effort and the intentions that he has with the decisions that he makes, I think he is a great example of someone who is wholehearted and just just someone who wants to be a good person. Um, Not for the sake of like patting himself on the back or anything, but just for the sake of learning and helping others and being able to share what he's learned and what he's done with others, try and help them with whatever they're struggling with, or not even struggling, but just to be there. And I really appreciate that from him, and I appreciate the grace that he's given me, especially in
Yeah.
those moments where I don't really understand what's going on, or I feel like what he's doing is not something that I would do, or maybe something that I don't want him to do. There you go with that unsaid expectations, things like that. But I can look at his intention and I can look at the process that he's going through and I can admire that and I can respect that because he's going into it. Whatever he's doing, he's going into it wholeheartedly and with good intention.
Oh,
And
that's
I think that's
cool.
really commendable for him.
Yeah.
So he's a good
Yeah,
guy.
no, it's awesome to be married to a good person like that, you know? That makes such a
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, how
hmm
cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm grateful. I think it's so cool that you guys met each other and fell in love, and you know, I like you said, it's not exactly a fairy tale how everything goes, but at the same time, like fairy tales to me seem kind of flat, and
Mm.
I love the contrast. I love being able to really feel close to somebody because we've been through some hell together, you know,
Yeah.
but whether it's a hell that we chose or one that was given to us on a plate. But um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's great, Catherine. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, very
Um,
cool.
so yeah, I don't have any other questions in particular. How's the sunrise looking for you? How's is it?
It is it is beautiful actually. If you I wonder if I can switch the screen if you want to see it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Can you see, is the sun too
Oh,
bright?
lucky. You are right on the water.
No, our house is like right down the street. This is the Miles River. It connects to
Oh,
the Chesapeake Bay, and this is like a
yeah.
5-minute walk from my house.
Oh, you got to be
So,
kidding. That's awesome.
yeah, like I will say, we might live in like farmland and yeah, there's like nobody here. But where we are, we seriously lucked out when it comes to neighborhood and just how beautiful it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That
Mhm.
is so cool.